Hello and welcome to this episode of the Game Plan Podcast by College Baseball Advisors. We have episode 85. My name is Wayne Mazzoni. I coach college baseball 30 years, and on the Game Plan, we talk to coaches, players, basically about baseball development, recruiting, and getting better as a player and as a coach. For more information about what I currently do as a recruiting advisor, you can visit my website, collegebaseballadvisor.com. On today's episode, we had Dominic Johnson, goes by Dom. This is a really cool, fun podcast. Tracy Smith, coach at Michigan, who's become a friend, said, "Hey, there's a good guy I think you'd connect with on your podcast." I didn't know much about Dom. Dom is West Coast famous for sure. His dad played many years in the big leagues. And Dom grew up around clubhouses, really with learning a lot from asking questions in the clubhouse to these great baseball players. Played himself in college, played as a minor leaguer after a while, worked as a lobbyist, interestingly enough, before he got back into baseball. Started coaching at the high school level and then really became just a pitching guru, pitching whisperer. And he's the most unassuming, humble guy, which you'll hear when you listen to the podcast. And we just talk about his whole background of working with players at all various levels, how he developed his backyard bullpen, which became a huge place for pros to go and college players and high school players. And it would be a place where college coaches would go to recruit, which is where Tracy Smith first met Dom, coming out and seeing these guys and recruiting these awesome pitchers. First, certainly when he was at Indiana, but just really cool conversation talking kind of um, really pitching development, modern world of baseball. So it's a really fun podcast. On that note, I've also developed a recent course which has gotten rave reviews called Develop Elite Pitchability. Again, I'm no fool. I know that velocity is still king, but when it comes to getting outs and being successful, you need to have command, you need to understand how to change speeds, and maybe the biggest of all, you have to be able to pitch under pressure. And how to train for that. So my course really helps with that, and I think it's timely coming with this podcast with Dom Johnson. For more information about that course, self-directed course, learn as you go at your own pace, you can go to go.collegebaseballadvisor.com/develop elite pitchability. So without further delay, here's my conversation with pitching guru Dom Johnson. All right, Dom. So first
Sure.
and foremost, thank you for taking the time to join a knucklehead like me. I
That
appreciate
makes
you.
two of us. Thanks for
Exactly.
having me.
There you go. Two
Uh,
knuckleheads on this talk,
thanks for having me.
and it's funny. Really, most of the ways I get my guests are as I'm talking with someone doing one of these. I write down people that they talk about,
Oh, I
and
got you.
doing one with Tracy Smith, he's like, you gotta talk to Dom Johnson, and basically he told me, and I guess this is what we'll start off with before I go
Sure.
back to get your background. He's like, he used to when he was coaching either at Indiana or Arizona State, he would come out to your place in San Diego and basically
Yeah.
sit and watch as you brought in like good player. And he just talks about how many recruits and good pitchers he got from you. So I guess I'll ask you this. When do you recall meeting Tracy?
I recall meeting Tracy right when he took over the job at Indiana. So he hired somebody out here. He was going to recruit the West Coast, where Louisville and them were recruiting Florida. But yet, no Big Ten team would come out and recruit San Diego or the LA area. So the first player that actually we hooked up on was a major leaguer named Alex Dickerson. Actually, Jared Sabrum too before that, and he wanted my godson Joe Musgrove to sign with Indiana too. So he came out and was looking at all three of those. Sabrum ended up signing with Indiana. Dickerson ended up signing with Indiana. And I just remember meeting him and thinking, man, this guy, he's good at what he does. And he
Yeah.
can talk. You know that, Wayne. He can recruit. He is good. He is different than most of the other coaches I
He
run
is.
against. And you know that. And we just hit off a friendship around 29, 208, 209, and been friends ever since. And anytime he's trying to look at pitchers, and now I know what type of coach he is and who he likes, I put everyone that I have in front of them. Uh, I've since moved on from many high school kids to more professional, but and some college, but we still do the same. If I see someone, the first guy I call is Tracy.
Yeah, it's funny. I really only met him this year. I kind of knowing that we were going to be at the same event. We had some back and forth prior, but what just a regular human being he
Yeah,
is. I mean, he's the coach of Michigan. Great job, but he's as much of a regular dude as anybody, and that's I think what makes him special.
I agree with you 100%. He just has there's not an ego to him.
Right.
He's not standoffish. He wants to talk and communicate and he wants to learn.
Yep.
And that's the best part about him. And that's why we hit it. We hit along really well.
All right, so back to you. Where were you born and raised, Dom?
San Diego. I grew up kind of all over. My dad played professional baseball he played for 16, he coached for 15 in the majors, so he's 31 years. Unfortunately, he passed at a young age, and I miss those times with him. But we grew up in San Diego, but when he was in Oakland, we went to Oakland. When he was in Philadelphia, we went to Philadelphia. So I got a good grasp of and a good feel of all over the country with him.
So obviously, and this is again, a lot of my notes on you come from
Sure,
talking with Tracy, but he's like, listen,
sure.
Dom basically grew up in the clubhouse. Like he
Yes,
was
I
always
did.
so obviously there's a lot of goods, which
Sure.
I'm to in that environment. When you talked about like Oakland and Philly, were you living there? Did you move to those
Yeah, we
places?
moved there for the off season. We when we grew up, Wayne, and I don't know if yes, you probably as well. There was no travel ball.
No,
There
no,
was no,
none.
you played one sport, you moved to the next. During the summer was kind of off, getting ready for football if you played football. But so we would go where my dad would go, and we'd spend time with him. And I was fortunate enough throughout my life to be able to get access to Hall of Famers, major leaguers, and stuff. And my dad was very good at having me ask questions. So my dad would say, go up to him and ask him a question. And whatever response you get, you would take it in. And he'd always say a good coach should tell you how to do it. They should tell you why to do it, and they should tell you when to do it.
Mm.
And so I kind of have built that mantra when I was coaching and when I coach. And I listen to them.
So what did you, so obviously a tremendous experience of your dad
Sure.
being a player and coaching it that long and what a shame. How old was he when he passed?
51, 52,
Oh,
52. Yeah, real young.
what a I mean,
Real
I'm
young.
I'm 56, so younger than
Yeah.
me. Wow. And
No, it
that
was
yeah,
tough. It
yeah,
was tough going into the clubhouse after when I played.
right.
I mean, especially when I went to Palm Springs when I was with the Angels in Palm Springs, because that's where my dad had spring training. So
Right.
it took me back a little bit, you
So
know.
what about so did you get drafted out of high school? Did you go to college? What was
I
your
went to
playing
1 year
background?
of junior college. I always had I was big in basketball growing up. I didn't play much baseball. Started playing baseball a little bit, but really honed in on it on my junior year. And it was the funny part. My dad would come up to me, and I was pretty good in basketball, and he'd go, what do you want to do? And I want to say I want to play professionally. And he goes, well, then how many answer me this question. He was a big answer me this question. He goes, how many kids that you see in the NBA are 6'4" and play post, 6'5" and play post? And I go, not many. He goes, okay. And then I started thinking, maybe that's the right thing. So I love baseball. So I started to get into baseball maybe my junior year in high school. Prior to that, I would throw, I would hit with my dad. Had very good access to guys like Bob Gibson, Steve Carlton,
Wow.
and I would ask them a ton of questions. And that's what really helped me develop and understand the game mechanically. Different time than it is now, way different time. More everything was feel, everything was throw strikes, everything was get ahead. Today, there's so many different variances of how people move and all of that stuff that it's more, I would want to say cookie cutter now than it was before then. Before it was just how many outs you got. And that's what's changed so much.
Oh boy, we'll get into that because
Yeah.
you mentioned Carlton and Gibson. You're talking about the two of the greatest to ever do this thing we call pitching. I mean,
Sure.
incredible longevity. Bob Gibson, like even I never played at a high level. I played Division III in college, but like even I could hit these guys, but if I saw Bob Gibson, excuse me, on the mound,
Yeah.
that dude would scare me. He would
He,
scare.
he was he was the most like my dad, and my dad was the hitting coach for the Mets with Torrey in '80. Gibson was the pitching coach. And when my dad used to say, "Hey, go talk to Bob, go ask him questions," I would literally, I mean, I was afraid because
Yeah.
the very first time I asked him, I didn't know what to ask him. So I'm thinking, okay, I got to come up with a question for Bob. So I go up to Bob and I say, "Hey, Bob, what do you do if the mound's not good? Like, what do
Ooh.
you do? Okay, if you can't get your hole right in it or your landing not right." And he looked right at me and just said, "Son, a good pitcher can pitch in a litter box. Figure it out." That was Gibson's mindset.
Love it.
It was always, I can do whatever I'm placed in front of to do.
Yeah.
I don't back down.
It's
And
yeah. I love
that's
it.
what it was like.
Yeah, and it's funny because my dad is 84, still like,
Yeah,
and the old school baseball, right?
sure.
And he still watches it and still enjoys it, but he's like, after you hit a home run in my era, he goes, "You knew you
Oh,
were getting dusted. You knew
oh,
it. You were getting dust," which is we could talk about why that's changed, but
oh. I got a good story on that one.
yeah, go ahead.
Mike Schmidt's first homer off Gibson. He said that he was just like you said, and your dad was right. He was scared to death that it was a walk off, and he even waited till Gibson left the field before he touched home plate. That's a that's different brand.
Different, no question about it. So you go to junior college.
Yeah,
What happens after that? You
I,
said one
I
year. So were you
one
draft
year I
eligible
wanted to
or what
play
happened?
pro.
Yeah,
Uh, Fortunately, again, just the access. I mean, I was very fortunate. There was an old pitching coach and who then became manager named Roger Craig.
of course.
And
Yep.
Roger Craig, who was instrumental in my development too, taught me the split finger and was he was the one that was instrumental in me getting drafted and signed by the Giants. And that's where that's what happened. I moved in with the Giants. Uh, I was pretty good. I mean, I moved up the ranks. I was still raw because I never really pitched growing up or never really understood. Only my mind was probably ahead of what my
Yes,
body
right.
could do. But then I was picked up in the Rule Five by the Anaheim Angels then,
Yep.
and Marcel Latchman, great pitching coach. I mean, a great pitching coach. He was instrumental in me getting over there, and I made it to Double A with the Angels, and then signed as a free agent with the Red Sox, and then the strike happened, and that was a mess for everyone involved.
Right.
And so then I decided I didn't want to be a part of baseball anymore. I was done with it. And I moved into the business section and then fell, wait a minute here, I love baseball, and then got back into it. And that's where I started to build a career as a pitching coach and started in high school. Uh,
Let me ask you let me
yeah,
jump in and ask you two things first.
sure.
One thing I wrote down I wanted to comment on because it's come up a lot now. Tracy Smith talked about he went the basketball route, maybe thought he was going to do basketball, actually started coaching basketball, right?
Yeah,
And then my last podcast was actually I interviewed yesterday Bill Courier, who was retiring after years at Fairfield U.
sure.
Talked about that ultimately he was a great hockey player from Vermont and
Right.
thought he'd go the hockey route. So look at you, really basketball was kind of the first thing and moved into baseball. But the other thing before you just talked about you got into the business world, Tracy told me this, and maybe this is accurate or not. Were you a lobbyist for a while?
Yeah, I was. I actually worked for a company called Metabolife, and I mean, we were very active in lobbying and we met, and I was fortunate enough I ran their national campaign, so I did both federal and state. So I traveled and did everything from uh, the White House to events, both Republican and Democrat, and met President Clinton, met President Bush, all of the ones, and I've noticed that now the political landscape has completely changed than the way it was before. Uh, but great stories, great times. I mean, I have a Clinton story that I love to tell, and I love to tell it because it shows how much baseball influences the political realm and how much baseball influences the culture of America. I was over at Roy Spence's house over in San Antonio, Texas, and he's doing an event for President Clinton and the Democrats there. Now Republicans are big into Texas. Governor Bush he was the governor then, and Morrow actually ran against Bush then. And we're having the first Democratic. I'm doing the first Democratic fundraiser. My company's going to sponsor it, so I'm at the head table. I'm lucky with that, and I'm in a group. And President Clinton comes in. He sits there and he introduces himself to everyone. And as I'm sitting there, Gary Morrow is introducing the table, and he goes to the individual next to me, and he talks about him being in insurance. And Bill knows him well, and so does Gary, the president. And then he comes to me, and Gary Morrow goes, "Mr. President, this is Dominic Johnson, new to the Democratic Party. His father played in the major leagues, pitched in the major leagues for many years." And President Clinton goes, "Who's your dad?" And I go, "Darren Johnson." And he looked at Gary and he goes, "Gary, Darren was a hitter. He led the league in RBIs in 1965 with 130." And I'm like, holy, I go, yeah, I go, we're gonna have some good times here with the president. And it was, and we talked baseball all night.
Wow.
So that shows
And
you
you
how
know
much
what?
baseball influences it.
And it's interesting, probably in that environment, he's sick of talking politics. So the fact that he could get a chance to talk some baseball with a baseball guy was
Yeah, he
pretty
loved it.
awesome.
It
Yeah,
was great.
so you were then saying, so you decided to get out of that and really get back into
Get into
baseball.
baseball. And I
So how
was
did it
like,
start?
even when like I was it started in high school. My brother was a high school coach, and his good friend Bob Perry, they both worked together at San Diego State uh, as players. And the Poway High program took over, and I go, "Hey, listen, I'd love to be the pitching coach." And so I started to be the pitching coach there. I was there for five years. We actually were good. We won 3 CIF titles down here. But then my daughter got cancer.
Mm.
So I had to back off a little bit, and I just started to do what I could privately. And I kind of built up a little bit of a stable privately. I mean, I had quite a few kids going to college and stuff like that. And so I started doing that, and that's where it kind of just took off privately. I don't like my dad told me something, Wayne, I'll never forget it. And this is how I teach. Once it starts to become about you as a coach, then you've lost the child. It's always about the kid you're coaching. So if he has a bad day, don't worry about how he reflects on you. Worry about how to get him better.
Mm.
So I've always done that, and it's took off to that. And then a lot of my high school kids started to go up through the ranks and started to go through college and go through the professional ranks. They would introduce me to somebody who would introduce me to somebody. Uh, Joe Musgrove, my godson, was a first rounder,
Yeah.
and we started when we were young, and when he was 14, actually, I wouldn't let him pitch until he was 14. And then we grew together, and then other guys started to make it, then people started to respond, other pro guys and other college guys, and I've kind of now been fortunate enough to limit who I teach, and it's been great with that.
So a few things there. First of all, here on the East Coast, obviously we have weather to deal with, but
Oh,
there's a couple of guys in Jersey who've had a setup at their house. During COVID, my backyard became like a pitching lab.
sure.
But is a lot of what you do when you talk privately, was this literally at your house?
Yeah, it's actually, we called it the backyard. I got a sign out there that says the backyard. It's been, it was first around 211, 212, if that we made it. And it's got lights, two
Wow.
mounds. And at the start of it, it was probably my favorite time. And a lot of the guys, most of the pro guys would just stay all day. We would
Wow.
barbecue, we would talk shop, talk baseball. some of my older veterans would come in, Jamie Moyer, Jerome Williams, um, Phil Koch, he was a character. We would come in and they would just hang out and talk. And I mean, we would be there all day. The younger kids got a tremendous amount of access and information from them. And they would stay around and watch all the kids. Now Joe does the same.
Right.
So it's almost like, and Joe's family, they're very good cooks. So Joe would always be the cook in the backyard. He would,
Right.
he was the best at that. But we would enjoy it, and college coaches would come in, and Tracy would be there in the time, and high school kids would run, and it also puts the high school kid. You'd always see what you're getting because a high school kid in front of those individuals either had to stand up or they would get intimidated.
Right.
And so it always puts you into a position of performance. And then even like my pro guys, when they would step up to throw, you have other pro guys' eyes on you. So you're always in the moment of trying to improve and trying to get better. You don't want to embarrass yourself is the bottom line. So that's kind of how the backyard developed.
So in your coaching from obviously you played, then you're in the business world lobbying, and then you get back.
Sure.
Um, did you already have from your experience through baseball, hey, this is how I will be teaching pitching, or was that something when you started that evolved a lot, whether it is mechanics or, obviously we know pitching in the last several years has
Sure.
become changed a lot, but did you have your set way or was it always evolving?
It started with ideas. Okay. It started with some ideas. I took two prominent gentlemen that I was with, when my dad was with and I was with. But the first was a strength and conditioning coach. So I'm big mentally. The first strength and conditioning coach in the history of Major League Baseball was a gentleman named Gus Heffling.
Hmm.
Gus Heffling was unique. He was a martial artist. So he learned actually in China. He moved to China in 1960 and he stayed in China until he came back. And his first athlete he trained was Roman Gabriel, the Hall of Fame quarterback. And then after Roman Gabriel, he was introduced, as Gabriel moved forward, he was introduced to Steve Carlton. And Steve Carlton was a 7th-degree black belt in Kempo karate.
Wow.
But Gus is one of only the two human beings in the Western Hemisphere that was an expert in all 7 salutations of Kung Fu. This guy was very big mentally. He did a workout program for 45 minutes to an hour. He learned it in China. They would do it before they did their martial arts, the sets, the kuns. And he brought that to the United States. So he was the first one from 1976 to 1993. He was the strength and conditioning coach of the Phillies. All of the Phillies pitchers did it.
Wow.
And it was unique, but as you were working out and as you were doing your workout, you were training the mind.
Hmm.
There was no towels, no music, no communication other than his voice. And he would put you through a series of movements that would force your limits as a physical limits. But how did you handle that mentally? And that's the first mental, the mentally I took. And the second was a guy named Howie Gershberg. Howie Gershberg was a pitching coach for the Angels. I don't know if you've ever heard of him.
Yes. Has he passed since?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Howie was just brilliant in my mind on how to understand mechanics. So I took a lot of his drills and would be able to talk to him. And it kind of evolved. And it even evolved later in my career when I got to be at Titleist Performance Institute with Greg Rose. And Greg, I was good at like explaining, but not the terminology of what it was.
Right.
So I would always say, if he's physically unable to do it, if we can't do it and we're doing lessons, then we got to work around your problem. So I would adjust around it. He was the one that's physical limitations. You can't teach something that is the guy's physically limited. So I started to understand that part of it as well, and that has allowed me both old school and new school type of philosophy to understand how to do it. But I am a feel guy. Most of my pro guys are feel guys. They're different than, just run it up there and do it as fast as you can and throw it as hard as you can. And if you throw a strike, great. If you don't throw a strike, well, look at your numbers, right?
Right,
I
right,
mean, look at
right.
your numbers. You had 20 inches of vert there, but it was 7 feet outside. And I'm like, I get it, but you're not going to pitch much because
No,
I know college coaches and I know pro coaches will give you a little more, pro organizations will give you a little more time, but that time runs out. Time
yeah,
runs out. And so you better be able to throw the ball and have an idea of where it's going. And that's what I do. I try to give you the tools to understand why a ball goes right or why a ball goes left. And once you start to understand that, then you're able to make adjustments. And then I make adjustments in game with pressure. Because without pressure, without understanding your body in a system of pressure, then you're not going to succeed.
yeah. There's a lot of good things there. I did have a similar epiphany in my coaching career. I was a pitching guy. I coached college 30 years, really all as a pitching coach, and I did have that same thing. I would be like, if the guy physically couldn't do it, I
Sure.
thought there was a drill or something to fix it until I got with a strength coach, one particular guy named Josh Heenan who runs this place, and he goes, you could do what you want all day long. His body cannot do it.
Right. Yeah.
So that's
Right.
where I come in. I go, all right,
Yeah.
now I get it. You're right. So it's, sort of similar in that regard.
100%.
Tell me about how did it come about and what is the Titleist thing? Because I did do some
Well,
research on it. It seems pretty awesome.
well, Greg Rose is probably the number one in rotational sports in the world. I mean, he's the first one to come out with kinematic sequencing. Him and Tom House did that years ago, but it started in golf. It's evolved. He has a very so Titleist is a golf institute is golf. So picture him as the trainer of all the golfers or Titleists in the world. But on the secondary part of it, he runs a performance institute inside of Titleist. It's just called Titleist Performance Institute. And I've seen Canelo Alvarez, I've seen Josh Allen, I've seen all the golf. I mean, anybody who's somebody really wants to get in to see him because he's very good at getting you the extra 1% for the elite athlete.
Right, right.
And and it's funny, the first time I came here, the first time I met him, there was a hitter actually named Spencer Jones with the Yankees. He's a minor league guy, went to Vanderbilt, but his dad works for Titleist, and his dad is an engineer for Titleist. And I was telling him, you got to go get him tested. You got to go see what his body can do and what his body can't do. So he tells me and calls me and goes, hey, listen, I don't know much about this, but Titleist has a guy named Greg Rose who's agreed to see my son. And I'm like, you're sending your son to a golf guy? Like, right? I couldn't comprehend that. Now it was great. But when I get there, Greg goes, and Greg is awesome to me because there's no ego in it. He just wants the kid to get better. But he goes to me, he goes, so picture me as the pit crew. Okay. You're the driver, and Spencer Jones is the car. How do you want him to drive? And I just go, listen, I don't know what I'm driving. Why don't you tell me if I got a Ford F-150 or Ferrari or Porsche or what I got, and then I'll know how to teach him. And he goes, we're going to be best friends.
Wow, look
And,
at that. Right.
we've developed for a lot of years over that. I've taken every one of my pitchers, most every one of them, in to see him. Uh, he understands the pelvis. He understands how the feet direct. He's really good at what he does. And he tests strength, flexibility, range of motion, and then we go into the kinematic lab and we do our stuff and he explains it to the individual. And the good thing about Titleist is the information is right there. So if you don't have to wait for a report. You literally can throw a ball and go, I want to try something. And you could see right away if your numbers increase. And
Mhm.
that's the best part about it. And Greg is excellent at what he does. So then we've become friends, and that's how I've got there.
Here's what I'm taking away from that. Tell me if I'm right. It seems like most things, at least pitching, are measuring the ball. They're, TrackMan, Rapsoda, they
Sure.
measure everything that the ball does. What you're saying is it seems like this Titleist thing measures what the body is doing. Is that
Yes.
accurate? Yeah.
Yeah, very much accurate, and what the body can actually do. So you test him to find out if he has the limits we were talking about earlier. If he
Right.
can, if he has internal rotation, if he can avert his ankle. I mean, what he can and cannot do. And then you find out the strength in those positions. So he may be weak in one and not in the others. And then when you go to the lab and test it, you can see if this is a physical limitation or if it's not a physical limitation and it can be changed. If not, you're guessing blind.
Right.
So that's kind of where it is very valuable for athletes and very valuable for pitchers. Hitters too. I mean, hitters too. Arenado. There's been so many that has been in there. I can't even tell you. And
So,
they're just trying to find out how their body moves.
let me ask you, let's get into some detailed pitching stuff.
Sure.
So, I know you said these days, more or less, you don't have maybe as many clients, like, or at least maybe you have more pro guys, less high
Yeah.
school kids, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you were to be with a high school kid, or when you were with a high school kid, a 15, 16-year-old kid walks in, what is Dom Johnson doing with him in terms of is there a program he's going through? Are you evaluating? What are you evaluating? Or do you have a standard way? Hey, this is the first thing we're going to do. Like, I guess what I'm
Yeah.
asking is how are you working with a high school kid? What areas under the hood are you getting and messing around with?
I break the low. So the first thing I do is well, I'll watch him play catch. I'll just
Yeah.
see him play catch. I've been doing it for so long that I'm seeing just how the body moves and I'm seeing what direction the body moves. And then I will see where their arm is at foot strike. Like how is the arm moving? Is he a lifter? Is he a ball swinger? Is he a flipper? All of these different things I'm trying to look at. And then I'll attack the most glaring one first. So I break it up into the lower and upper half. And when people say they're training the body, I mean, your arm's part of the body too. So everything's part of the body. Uh, and I always used to say, if you don't train the arm or you don't train the hands, think of a hitter. If you don't train where his hand path is, how is he going to hit?
Right.
So not everything is the lower half. Okay, so it's the body is both the lower half and upper half. So I'll pick the poison first. Which one is he really bad at? And then I have drills to if it's alignment, if it's quad heavy, if he's not using it. And then I have drills that I do that I'll put them in to allow them to be able to feel it first, but then we articulate it and understand it. Okay, so then he has to say exactly how he feels and what he feels and what positions he's in. So I try to do, information's good, but if you don't have understanding, then the information is nothing. So I try to make the information as most understandable as possible. Then once he gets into that and he starts to feel that and starts to do that, I'll stay with that for a little bit. I won't move on. I think so many coaches move so fast throughout the body that they can't grasp what they've just learned. So I start with that. And then I start getting cues into it. So when I was young, I met a pianist who was a world class pianist, and he used to say that he would start the piano players, and he would only train. This was when my days of Metabolite. He would only train world class. There was no beginners.
Right.
And when he did it, he would take one finger at a time. He was explaining to me, and go one finger at a time, and they had to start with one finger at a time. Once they got good with one finger, they had to go two fingers. Now these are guys that are they're the
Right.
best in the world.
Right.
And once he started to understand that, and once they started to understand that, he'd give them a cue, ABC. He said, we learned our lives when we were young, ABC, 1, 2, 3. He goes, no one ever did ABCD. You knew what was coming after C. It was D. And you knew what was coming after 3 is 4. So once you get him into that mindset of the cues of ABC, then you put it in, and then I put it in order of movement down the mound. A first, B next, C. And once they start to get into that and understand that in the mind, their body then flows. They know what 4 and 5 is. They know what 6 is. So that's kind of how I start with the cues of them. And then I'll move to the upper half when the upper half does it. And I throw a lot off the mound. I throw more off the mound than I do flat ground.
Love
Uh,
it. Love it. Yeah.
okay. And
That's where
Wayne, you
that's
know it.
where we throw from. Might as well.
Yeah,
Right?
correct. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
we're the only sport or only athlete they tell us to train on a surface we don't perform on.
Right.
So I get them on the mound a lot. And we'll do a base drill. That's what Howie taught me. Some people call it the rocker drill. I've been doing this since, and actually a good thing about the rocker drill, there was a coach with the Angels called Jimmy Reese. Jimmy Reese was Babe Ruth's roommate.
Mhm.
So and he's been in baseball since 1920. This guy, and he was a coach in his 90s. Uh, and Jimmy, when he saw me doing the base drill, he goes, "Hey, that's Walter Johnson. That's how Walter Johnson used to throw."
Mm.
And that's where it actually was developed. Now it's called rotational strength. You got so you're learning how to rotate into the ground.
Right.
That I do that a lot off the mound. It allows to stabilize the lower half, get your arm in a good position to throw, and we throw all pitches from that with the catcher down. And then we'll move into the next step, and then we move into the next step, and we just understand each step that the body positions in to be able to throw my fastest and strongest, but also my most accurate.
Let me
I'm a,
let me let me
yeah,
unpack a few things there, which is awesome. We definitely have similar takes. It's
awesome.
funny. I always tell kids, especially here in Connecticut, which is meaning kids are indoors all the time, right?
Sure.
So they're throwing off the same indoor mound all the
Yeah,
time. And I said, hey, dudes, the season's coming. You should be off the dirt. You should be off
yeah,
various kinds of dirt because every mound is different height with a different slope and a different
sure.
backdrop and all that. So you got to get used to it. But back to what you said about arm action. Let's talk about two things there. I was probably guilty early in my
Sure.
pitching career that like I felt like there was one right way to manage your arm. Like one way it just looked
Sure.
good, you know.
Sure.
But you do realize if they are in the right position at foot strike, they're more or less probably in a okay. And we've seen Billy Wagner. We've seen a bunch of
Yeah.
guys with not, So how much do you, when you see these various arm swings, how much do you say, hey, this looks a little untraditional, but you are on time at foot strike? Or do you say, listen, the way you're doing it, we just got to switch your arm action. How much do you mess with arm action?
Oh, a
If
lot.
a lot,
I
okay.
mess with arm action a lot. I, most of the coaches will say be on time, but how do you be on time? I mean, that's the biggest thing. And it's their arm action themselves, your body moves. I like to have the arm, I like the ball above the elbow. I mean, you see this below the elbow stuff, but if they're on time, it's when they're on time. So most people talk about like foot strike. I do first contact. I do first contact. I don't do when heels down or that part. And it's the path of the arm. I mean, a tractor trailer and a Porsche go the same speed, but it takes one a lot longer to get than the Porsche.
Great point.
So it's how your body moves to that swing. Are you a rotational guy? Are you a linear guy? Is the arm getting too far back? That's one of the things my dad used to teach me and used to tell me. I don't know if it's done much anymore in hitting, but he used to always say, and the good hitters, I've spoke to Tony Gwynn and others, they could follow the ball. So when that pitcher broke his hands and they saw the ball, and the biggest window was behind the pitcher. If you could see the ball behind the pitcher, draw a line to the window where it is executed. You can do it peripherally. You don't need to look at the ball. You could
Mm,
see it. And if you could track it, I don't care how fast he throws. That's why there's some guys that throw 99 miles an hour and they get ripped. And
right,
there's some guys that don't. You're like, it looks like he's throwing 500 because hitters are timed.
right,
That's their timing. And they're used to seeing balls come out of the pitcher's hand by the thousands. Now, if it comes out a little different, it takes them a split second to change their thought process of where it is. And that split second can win you the battle.
right.
It could win you the battle. So that's one of the things I'm real big in, trying to hide the ball from them,
Mm,
as well as making them use most all of their ability to be able to be on time, to be able to get the layback in the proper position.
All right. Second question as it relates to catch play now.
Sure.
First time you've
Oh,
seen a kid, you're playing catch, you just, you're throwing with them. And the arm action you love. Like, wow,
oh,
there's not much to be done here. Um, do you then just, hey, let's progress on and see how your delivery is like?
yeah,
Yeah, because you just said
yeah.
I do the same thing. If you're playing catch with someone and you see a red flag, well, you're going to attack that. But
Yeah.
some kids throw beautifully.
No,
And then you
100%.
just, yeah, you move ahead to the next piece that you want to tackle,
Yeah.
right?
And then I attack, and then even at the start when they're playing catch on the ground or flat ground, even my first time, I'll say, okay, I know you're not loose. You're playing catch. I'm going to move the catcher up. I need you to play catch off the mound.
Right,
So then they do the same thing and they play catch off the mound. And then I see, okay, wow, he is good on the flat ground, but on the slope, we got some issues.
right, right,
That's the next step, and that's what I tackle. So if he looks good, even if he doesn't look good, sometimes I've seen weird arm actions on flat ground, and then on the mound, dude, it catches up.
right, right.
There's so that I need to see both the stage I perform at and then the stage I warm up at. And once I see both of them, then I'll go, okay, we're gonna attack this. And
All
that's
right.
how we start.
On, as you were talking about now, the cues and the feel and all that. For you, at that stage, is video come into play?
I don't do video. I do not do video. But I do not do video until he understands his positions.
Okay.
The reason being I don't do video because people rely on video too much. And there's one thing that I always in the game. Now I'm a performance coach too, like a performance, like I'm big into let's get outs. Okay.
Yeah,
In the game, I can't look at video.
it's a great point. I love
I
that.
can't I can't call timeout and say, listen, where's my arm?
Right,
I've got to at least have an idea of what I'm doing. And then I can look at video to see. And then you have to direct kids on video because if you don't direct kids on video, they're going to hear their outfield partner talking about something that can take them further away from what they're trying to do.
right, right,
And now they're a ship without a rudder.
right.
And then the worst thing I hear is, I used to throw hard. Now I don't know how I throw hard. And I'm like,
Yeah.
do you don't remember?
Right,
And no, they don't because they just did it.
right,
And that's a part of learning. That's a part of learning. I like the guy to go, I used to throw hard because I did X, Y, and Z. And then we go, okay, why are you doing X, Y, and Z? I think I am. Now we have a rudder. Now we have a map to go back to where it is. And so that's why feel is so important to me.
no, that's a good point.
Then
It
we do
makes,
video. Then we
yeah,
do video. I
yeah.
do video, but
I'm probably a little guilty now that you say it of maybe doing video too early. I try to still use a program where I do the comparison against the pro, but more or less to have them visualize it. But then again,
sure,
if we all could just do it like a pro, we'd all be a pro. So maybe
sure,
I,
100%. Right, right.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
that's what would be the
yeah,
ideal.
yeah,
I wish
right,
we could
yeah.
just program them,
Right, yeah. Hey,
right?
hey, do it like this guy. I'll see you later. Right. Yeah,
Right,
that would
right,
be
right.
nice. That would be nice.
Yeah,
Um, to switch gears a little
sure.
is working with these higher level guys.
Okay.
Um, what's the process of how you're working with them? Obviously, I mean, do you still you get a guy that's a double A comes to you first time. Is it still let's play catch, let's see you move, or are you talking first? Like
Talking.
you're talking first, right?
Yeah, I want to understand what they're doing.
Right.
So younger kids don't understand what they're doing. And when you get to that level, or especially in the major leagues, you understand what you're doing. You just have maybe gotten further away from that or what you're trying to do. So I want to try to do this. I need to try to do this. I feel like I'm lacking in this. That's how it starts. And then I would ask, how are you trying to do it?
Right.
What mechanisms are you using? And then the conversation just flows. And then I say, when you were really good, what were you feeling? What were you doing? What were you? And then we just go from there. And then it's just listening and a lot of explaining. And to a major leaguer, when you explain something, you better know what the hell you're explaining. You better not just say a hip hinge.
Right.
You better explain how to hip hinge, when to hip hinge, or any of those type of things, or your pelvis dump. What are you trying to ride the pelvis? How do you ride the pelvis? When do you better know and that's what we do. We explain it and we understand it. And that's what I've learned. Actually, Jamie Moyer was the first one a long time ago when I worked with Jamie, that he held me accountable for every word that came out of my mouth.
Mm.
And I really go, whoa, okay. Now it's not just I'm telling you to do something because I think it's right. I better understand what you're doing. And we got along great. And he really helped me. He was good at that. That was
Yeah.
good.
And listen, as you know, I'm preaching to the choir, but these are their livelihoods, like
Yeah.
this is his career. He wants to know all the information and why he should be doing something. At this stage, here we are in 2026. You've been doing this a while. How much tech goes into are you having guys throw on TrackMans? Are
Yeah.
you yeah, so are you Dom is like I'll be honest, I got out of
Yeah.
coaching in 22 and stuff was coming in and I Butch Thompson, I don't know if you know Butch, who's the coach
Oh,
at Auburn,
Auburn. Yeah,
who's
yeah.
just the best. He says there's no old school or new school. We're just all in school, or I should
Yeah.
always be learning. I'm a
Yeah.
little intimidated by the new stuff because I never
Sure.
got to work with it enough. That's a part of what your guys they're throwing with tech, and you're breaking some of that down if need be too.
Yeah. So my biggest thing is I understand the numbers and you have to. He's right. It's in school. You have to. Fortunately, one of my good friends, who I do the diamond solution business with, Nate Walker, uh, we have a business where we work with TrackMan in all of Dominican and Latin America, and
Ah,
we gather all the data for MLB. So we work with TrackMan. We set up the events. He's the one who really helped me understand the data, and he is brilliant. He used to be with Tampa Bay early, and he is brilliant at understanding how to plot the data, how to use the data. And actually, he was the one who brought all of the data into college girls softball.
hmm,
So he's
interesting.
actually, and as you see now in softball, you'll see multiple pitchers during a game instead of one girl every time. Nate Walker was the one who introduced that to him. So he's brilliant to me, and he's the one who inter, uh, who instructed me, taught me, and I rely on. So that part of it. Now, throwing wise, I don't do TrackMan all the time. But the biggest thing that I've learned is when guys are chasing something, I call it chasing the rabbit, whether it's the vertical, or whether it's horizontal or whatever they're trying to chase. Most coaches just say you need more horizontal, you need more vertical break. I'm I'm going, how do you do it? Here's how do we get this vertical break? How did you throw a 20 and how are you throwing a 14?
Right.
Okay, so that's what I use it for, not just to chase vertical break or chase or anything to see. It's an instruction tool, just like anything else.
Yes.
You use a
Feedback.
calculator to do math, you're getting
Yeah.
feedback. So,
Right.
and it's a consistency of your stuff is what we're looking for. So that's what I use TrackMan for, is the consistency of it.
Got it. Okay. So talk more because I know again Tracy talked about that. So with the is the Dominican piece that you mentioned, is that through the Diamond Solutions?
Yeah, that's through the
Okay.
Diamond Solutions.
And
And
that's data,
yeah.
it's a lot heavy data based,
Oh
correct?
man, Wayne, the first time we went out there, we did Rapsodo, and I give Nate a lot of credit. He's built this machine down there, and not only that is though, he knows what he's looking at, so he can. I mean, and even though he played baseball at Northwestern, he played baseball at Holy Cross. This isn't a guy who's just a nerd. This guy's a baseball player
Right.
that is extremely intelligent at translating mechanically to the numbers he's reading or numbers he's seeing. So when we first went out there, we were at Rapsodo. Now you have to get the trainers, you have to get their agents and trainers to believe that what you're doing is helping them and not hurting them. And that was a
Right.
big thing. It's they don't trust a lot of people.
Get it. Yeah.
And he did a good job at that. And the first time though, it was funny. We have a first workout ever and we're using Rapsodo and their coaches bring their kids up and literally the first one, I'm standing behind the mound, and they ask, "What do I do?" And I just go, you throw the ball. We know what Rapsodo is, right?
Right,
And they
right,
go,
right.
"Okay, okay." We throw the ball, and the next thing I know, he throws it, and he almost hits the Rapsodo machine, and I'm like, "Wait a minute, okay." And then I don't say anything. He just held on to it. He's nervous, right? The next one, he almost hits it again, and I'm like, I turn to the guy and go, "Hey, what are we doing?" And he goes, "Oh, he thinks you have to hit the machine." And I'm like, "No, no, no, no." But that's where it came from.
Right.
They
Oh
had
my
no
God.
idea. They were trying to hit the machine.
Oh my
So
God.
it's been thousands of players since, and I mean, it's just different. I don't know if you've ever been. I
I've
would
not.
love. You have to go, Wayne. You have to just, you have to come, and maybe one trip that we take, I'll bring you
Oh, dude,
because you
love it.
have to see what it's like. It's everything is baseball. That's it. And they love it. They drag the fields themselves. It's way different. Uh, but it taught me a lot about like what I see here and what I see over there. It gives you a big eye opening of what we think of as youth players here to what we see as youth players over there.
Right.
And since now we've grown to Mexico, Venezuela, all over, and it just gives you a great understanding of what actually needs to be put in and how much passion they have. And watching the WBC shows it.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
that's truly who they are.
yeah. Um, Couple more pitching specific ones
Sure.
here. Is formally or informally coaching the mind, the mental part of it, part of what you're doing?
100% routines. Uh, I've learned this. Not the pro guys, but most younger guys think a routine. Think the routine is how you warm up to prepare.
Right.
Okay, that's one routine. I like routines in the game because if anything goes wrong or you know, shit hits the fan,
Yeah, yeah.
you've got to have something you can rely on. And and I've learned from different psychologists, different strength and conditioning coaches, as far as martial artists and some unique ones, how actually to do that. Uh, and there's a difference between one gentleman who I love is a guy named Joel Turner up in Seattle. He up in the Seattle area, he's a little north, but he's his whole information is in game. It has nothing to do with prior.
Right.
And I think, and so I like what he talks about thoughts and thinking, that there's two different things that most coaches say don't think, but it's actually you're having thoughts. And and thoughts are throw a strike. Thinking is solving a problem. When I sit down to do work or when I sit down to do something, I have to think about it. Okay. If I have thoughts about what I have got to do later, I won't perform my work well.
Right.
That's in pitching. Have thoughts. I need to throw a strike. The coach is going to pull me. Those are all thoughts.
Yeah.
Thinking is how to solve the problem. I need to focus on the lower half, or I need to focus on the zone. I need to focus. I need to refocus. That type of stuff. And to put them in that position to understand the difference between the two has really helped pitchers. Has really helped pitchers. So when they hear a coach say, don't think, they go, okay, don't have thoughts.
Yeah, it's impossible. Right.
Impossible, right? I
Yeah.
mean, and I used to laugh. He goes, "Not to think, then what pitch do you throw?"
Right, right,
Right? I mean, you're
right.
just going to throw in blind pitch. You have to think, but it's how you think is which makes you what makes you the best. It really does. It's how you think.
I used to try to, when I was working, college, that, and I think what you explained is higher level and better than what I was doing, but I try to do a couple of things. Curious what you think.
Sure.
One is, what is the mindset you want to have when you're going well, right? Like, so it's trust your stuff and attack, for example, right?
Right.
So as we're now throwing bullpens, I'm trying to create some chaos in the bullpen,
Oh yeah. Okay.
whether it's a competition next to another guy, whether I make them put their shoes on the opposite foot, whether I dig a hole on purpose, um, to get them thinking and then say, what's your go-to thought now? And most of them would write it under their hat and they
Sure.
would go, trust your stuff and attack, right? So like, and try to get that to the game because you're right. Those thoughts of why the heck is he warming somebody up? Like
Yeah.
that's a normal thought, or this umpire's not calling that. That's a normal thought. But then what do you do? how do you redirect it? So I tried to come up with this mantra, which was when you're, spiraling, get back to your anchor thought. It wasn't necessarily solving a problem. I like yours as a little higher level, but it was at least a way to direct where your
No, I
thoughts are
think it's
going.
great. And I think pitchers, I do. I think that's great. You're giving them something.
Right.
If not, they have nothing. And nobody teaches like that part of it. And like the balls and strikes, I remember after I pitched in the minors, I'd call my dad, and there was after every time, and my dad was very mental, uh, very soft spoken mentally, like he'd
Yep.
make you chew on it for about an hour. Uh, but I remember missing a pitch I thought was a strike, and the guy hits a double, we lose the game, and I go, Dad, if I would have got that strike, if I would have got that first strike, it was actually, and my dad goes, "You're that bad that you need a strike?
It's a
That
great
you need
point.
everything to go your way?
Right.
You need everything to go your way. So God, I hope everything goes your way." Okay, that's kind of how he would talk to me, but it is the truth. We can't control, and we get a ton of strikes that are balls.
Right.
So
Yeah.
we don't say, "Hey, let's call the umpire and say, wait a minute, that was a ball."
Right. Exactly.
Right?
Right.
Timeout. Everyone, let's
Right.
stop the game. That's a ball. Yeah. We don't do that. So we want everything to go in our favor. Life's not like that. You're going to give up a rock, it's going to go to the second baseman. You're going to give up a little bloop that's going to fall in.
Right.
It'll even out. It's how you control them. It's how you control it. It's how you move on from it. And that's the biggest thing that mentally that guys need to. I mean, everyone says, one pitch at a time, but then actually they don't do one pitch at a time. And it's that simple.
Right.
They forget the next pitch, the pitch they just threw, and then they don't calm themselves down to execute the pitch about in front of them. And that
Yeah.
goes to a story I had with Carlton. So Carlton one time got hit pretty good, and my dad goes, "Go talk to him." Now my dad, and this is after a game he gave up like 6 or 7, and I was like, "Holy moly, I got to go talk to this guy." And I knew what my dad was saying. Carlton is a professional. He knows, and he knows him well enough that I could go up and talk to him. He wasn't sending me in the lion's den.
Right.
And when I went to Steve, I go, "Hey, Steve, I got a question for you." He goes, "Yeah." I go, "I'm just trying to learn." I'm just trying to
Good
learn. And
start.
he goes, "Yeah, right." And he goes, "Okay." I go, "How do you like respond after today?" And he goes, "Okay." He goes, "It wasn't my best." He goes, "But I got 6 outs. Okay. I need to focus on those pitches that I got the outs on because those are the ones I want to execute. I'm not going to focus on on the
Yeah.
crap.
Right.
I'm not going to go there." He goes, "That doesn't make you any better." He goes, "I focus on what I do well, and I got to refocus on doing that, and I'll be fine." Okay, there you go. Okay, I get that. So many guys beat themselves up over uh, uncontrollables, things they can't control, that it becomes so much of a game of outcome. And it is a game of outcome. You have to perform. You have to. But it's how you handle the in betweens. It's how you
Yeah.
handle the time you're not pitching. It's the thought process in between, the discipline you got to have. And that's one thing I love discipline over motivation.
Right.
I
Yeah.
love discipline over motivation.
What I've found with a lot of kids, and I'm guilty of this when I play golf. Like every time I'm about to play golf, I go, today's the day I
Right,
have my best round ever. And then when I get an 11 on the first hole, I'm like, ah, F it, whatever, right?
right.
And kids go into an outing thinking everything's gonna go perfectly today. Today's
Yeah,
the day I don't. And then back-to-back doubles on the first two guys, and it's like, well, I just don't have my stuff. How am I gonna get anybody out? It's
yeah,
like, no,
that's it.
no, it's like you're in a boxing match, you get hit twice in the face, the fight's not over. Punch the dude
Right.
back, right? You know?
No, correct. I got a great quote. Can I read you one?
Please.
It's okay. This is this is probably my favorite one that Joe sent me. And I read it because it means a lot to it. So this is about 4 years ago, and I kept this from him. It's about 4 years ago. He's going through like the Dodgers. He's going through the Mets. I mean, he's going through like four power pack teams in a row that are great in hitting. And here's what he sent me. He goes, battling through some tough lineups this year, dude. He goes, I'm realizing that the game isn't about what you want to do. It is about what you must do. Everyone would love and go out and throw 7 scoreless innings and have great mechanics, and you rarely get all of those stars aligning. What is real is going out there not knowing what version of yourself is going to show up and finding a way to win and compete with that guy. That's it. You're right. It is a boxing match. It's a fight. You figure it out. You got to have plan A, plan B, plan C. You can't just go, I don't have it today. And that's the biggest thing mentally, which I see kids don't do that much anymore. You don't have the wherewithal to figure things out in adversity. And that's the biggest thing that I find the great ones do. That's how you can get longer in the game. That's how you can compete. That's how, if you don't have the greatest stuff, how are you going to win? You got to understand when it's not going well. How am I getting out of this? Not how I got in it. How am I getting out of it?
Right.
And that's the biggest thing.
So, very curious to hear your thoughts on this. I mean, you may be, you're at episode 85. You're my 85th guy doing this. I've had some great baseball people.
Awesome.
I've had 3 or 4 big league pitching coaches, which
Sure.
I'm sure, you know, if you wanted to at some point, that would have been a route that you could have done. And even Tracy said to me, Tracy Smith said, I tried to hire that guy a bunch of times, you know, like, what from back in your dad's era of playing till 2026, what have we, and we're talking pitching specific now, what have we gained? How are we better now at pitching? And what maybe have we lost in the way we're developing and performing as pitchers?
I'll start with today's game. Today's game is more, what we've gained is understanding of the analytics of pitching, to understand how the ball flight moves, and it does help you pitch better. I mean, when we were growing up, everything was throw the ball down.
Right.
But if you had big vert, you wouldn't throw the ball. You would want to throw it up. And
of course, right.
Why does your curveball work and Billy's doesn't work? And all of this stuff allows this game to be better. The way we train and the effort now that we put into training has gotten way better. The way that we recover, all of that stuff has gotten way better. It's also caused more cars to break down because of chasing what we believe is the most important thing, and that's velocity, breaking ball, and all of that stuff. And to throw, and the one thing that is, I think, is not good now is everyone throws as hard as they can every time. They try to get their stuff on every time. And, you know, it's fine every 5th day or every day, that the 3rd day that you're pitching in a game, but you only have so much movement patterns and have so much stress, and the stress is constantly on you. Sprinters don't sprint every day.
Right.
Okay. Most of they just don't do that. So, but we're trying to sprint every day. We're trying to get nastier. We're trying to do everything we can to get better. And it has worked for some people. It has worked for other people, and it's hurt the game as far as injuries. That's one of them. But it has gotten better. The arms have gotten better, all of that stuff. But like I say, I was never told to throw fast. If I threw the ball as fast as I could and it was a ball, everyone goes, whoa, 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 slow down. Throw the ball down. You're trying to throw it too hard. Okay, right. This is so different. So I don't know if the arms have gotten better. I just think that the understanding of what they're trying to do, as far as where they put their focus on, has gotten different than when we played. And then the older time and the older people played. They weren't looking for Nolan Ryan was Nolan Ryan. They didn't try to make everyone Nolan Ryan.
Right. Right.
Okay, and they didn't throw it as fast as you can. And I would actually love to see Nolan Ryan in today's game try to throw as fast as he can. I mean, he was trying to throw strikes.
Right, right.
He just had a God gift of arm.
Right.
So if somebody said, "Hey, don't worry about throwing a strike," he'd probably there's that one guy, Steve the count the
Oh yeah,
from the
yeah,
Org.
yeah. Yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
that
yeah,
guy,
yeah.
right? The guy couldn't throw a strike. He threw a
Right.
hundred and something miles an hour. I mean,
Right.
he would be in the big leagues right now. Uh, so that part of the game is better as far as all of the analytics, the workouts, and all of the stuff, the access, the information is all better. All of that stuff has improved uh, pitching. What was better about the old was the understanding of how they moved and how they pitched and pitching itself.
Mm.
To not go, okay, I'm going to throw a fastball up and now I'm going to throw a curveball because I want a tunnel. They would see the guy's crowding the plate. I need to back him off. I need to throw this ball down. I got to take some speed off of it. Their whole focus was getting them out, and their perseverance through the game was way better. Like they would play like light catch. They understood their bodies better. I mean, they would play light catch to get a feel before uh, a lot more than they do now. And I also think in youth baseball, they played catch way more than they do now.
Yeah. There's a lot of good things you brought up there. It's funny. You nailed it perfectly. We are better machines. People understand more. The level of some pitchers have gotten to is incredible, but it does seem if you have some of the old school traits, the feel, the understanding, and then you're using the new
Oh,
technologies, then you're going to be the guys we watch on TV or the high level guys.
sure.
But I see a lot of, not all, but it's been frustrating to me sometimes to see kids um, training like crazy, getting stronger.
Yeah.
They're definitely throwing harder. They're throwing their plyos and their pull downs and their long toss, and the velo is going up for sure. And then I'll look 20 games into the college season and they have a 13.75
Yeah.
ERA. Right. And I
Yeah.
go, something is missing. And I think it is a little bit of A, feel, and B, you'll probably agree with this. And I think this is why you're such a good coach is a lot of kids these days they look for the answer from somebody else. Like,
Oh,
tell
yeah.
tell me what I'm doing or what's the right drill to fix this. It's like, I don't know, dude, get up, throw a lot and figure it out sometimes.
No, that's
You
exactly
know,
it. You don't,
yeah.
you're Wayne, you're 100% right. You don't go, and I tell this to the parents and kids. So you're going to take a test in school and not do your homework, and then you're going to go ask the teacher to help you? That ain't going to work, buddy. You
Right.
need to figure out what the hell you're doing, and you need to do your own homework. And that will help you get into that position and see that, and it is what you just said. They train, they do all of this, but they forget that's not their craft. You're not paid to train. In the
Right.
pro
That's
level, you're not paid to train. You're
great. There
paid to
you go.
perform. Even
Mm,
in college, they get so caught up in their training that they're forgetting, wait a minute, this is a performance game. And how do I make your performance better? And how do I do that? And it's competition, it's competing. It's just competing and not giving in. Most people, Gus taught me this. He goes, when I was 14, he goes, what's focus? You hear that all the time. And I ask every kid, what's focus? And nowadays, you have more information, but back then I didn't, right?
right.
I just would say, it's this to really stare at one thing. And he goes, no, no. He goes, focus is, and I'll remember this. He goes, is to not allow outside interference or inside interference affect the task at hand.
Mm,
Outside is teammates, coaches, everything is outside. He goes, inside is your inner dialogue. It's how you talk to yourself. Okay. And he goes, and once you talk to yourself emotionally, you've lost. Do not allow outside or inside interference to affect the task at hand. And then he said, can an elephant run across lily pads? And I go, no. And he goes, then you won't reach your potential. He goes, what your mind believes, your body perceives. And I go, okay, I get that a little bit. Well, the next day I go to Carlton, right? Cy Young Award winner, five, or how many this guy won. And I go, hey, Steve, I got a question for you. He goes, yeah. I go, can an elephant run across lily pads? And he said, you bet your ass he can. He's out there. We just haven't found him. See the mindset.
right. Right. Right.
So the mindset is anything's achievable if you put the right work to it. And you have to believe you're capable of it. But you have to also then believe in working to get to that mindset. And working is not only physically, it's mentally. I mean, how many times, Wayne, have you heard the game's mental, yet nobody practices mental?
Amen. Right.
I mean, it's just, and they have all this money into this equipment and all this money into training, yet nobody puts a dime into mental. But the game is mental. And you either get that through experience, which if you're not good, you're not going to get a lot of experience, right? Because you're going to get. So that's the biggest thing that I see. And, we as coaches sometimes think it's easy to throw strikes and stuff like that. Uh, we have to train them to do a better job at it.
Yeah.
We got to train them to do a better job at it.
Yeah. No, I love that mental piece because some kids are born and raised and they have mental toughness and mental
Yeah.
skills and et cetera, and others you don't need to work on it. And we certainly know that, as we said, when we were growing up, we played a bunch of sports and now, and nothing wrong if you want to focus on baseball and pitching, but
Sure.
what you do lack is competing sometimes. So you got to
Yeah.
figure out some way. I don't care if it's ping pong or pool or something. You got to compete to get your compete muscle going, right?
Yeah, you've got to learn that it's mental toughness. I was explained when I was young was just not allowing negative thoughts to come in. That you always have a chance. That you always can do it. You get out of it. That's mental toughness. You just don't go right. You have two roads that will go down. You
Right.
just keep going to the one I'm going to win. And that's where the great ones do it. And that is also where most young kids miss it because they don't compete in other sports to compete. And then today, though, Wayne, you know this. And I just had a college coach tell me this. And this is something that's very, and I think travel ball has done this. Okay, I think that high school now is coming to that because of all the games everyone's playing. Everyone's playing too much baseball, and the games now become just something to do on a Saturday.
Mm.
So I had a college coach recently. They got blown out 2 games in a doubleheader, and they went to the captain and they asked the captain, he did, just him and the captain, what happened? What can we, and the captain goes, I felt good today. I got 3 hits. Yeah, there you go, Wayne.
Right.
But that's exactly what we're dealing with.
Right.
The
Right.
kids don't care, and the parents don't care if their team wins. They care if Billy's getting his 3 hits. And then in travel ball, you play 4 games. You go 0 for 4, 0 for 4. Then you go 2 for 4, and you're talking about the 2 hits you just got.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
then in high school and in college, you don't get the opportunity to play 4 games in a row or 4 games back to back in 2 different days. So how do you handle an 0 for 4 Tuesday and come back Friday and go 0 for 4? How do you handle? And
Yeah.
so that type of stuff is what's important now that is not addressed at all. It's just
Yeah.
kids and it's unfortunate. That's something that when we played, even I bet you did, when you're out with your buddies, you're not trying to embarrass them. You're trying to win so bad that you don't want to hear the crap from them,
Yeah.
right? You don't want to
Yeah.
hear it.
Yeah. It's a great point. I mean, it's funny. I do tell my son who's in college playing, I go, hey, listen, it would be, I hope you start every game and get a hit every single time up. But when you're not in the lineup, like you should be having fun with your teammates, compete, help
Yeah,
in some way, pick up a sign from the other team, see if a pitcher's
yeah,
tipping something like freaking help the team win in some capacity, some way. Because in 20 years, they're not going to remember what if you got any hits that day, even if you played, but they're going to remember your
right.
character and your personality. And hopefully, kids get that, and the right coach can bring that out in a team, which is
Sure.
important. No
It,
question.
it is very important. And it's just the winning atmosphere. And I mean, winning is, and then college coaches at times take it so far because I mean, I get it. It's their livelihood, right? It's their livelihood. So that's the biggest thing that I see in these young kids now today that's just so much different is that aspect of it,
Yeah,
you
agreed.
know.
Agreed.
And that's one of the things that I think is better before than now.
Yes, I
But
I
those are
think
the type of
yeah,
stuff.
yeah. Most people would. I mean, all the college coaches I have on all played multiple sports. None of them really played travel, but that's the
Right.
world. That's listen. Things change and we have to deal with it. There's the transfer
Sure.
portal. There's NIL. There's free
Oh,
agency. I mean, it is
crazy.
what it is. You
Yeah.
could not like it, but it's what the reality is.
And I
But
like what Coach Thompson said. It's in school. You're in school. You're learning.
Yes,
And if you
exactly.
cannot transition to the new, you're going to be left behind. They're not going to and the kids aren't going to respect you.
Totally.
They're,
Agreed.
they're just because there's too much access the other way.
You're 100% right.
So
Exactly.
you have to be able to do both.
Yeah, and even many coaches have said, as the coach, it's my job to know which kid needs to be told a lot of the data and which kid needs to be no video, no data, let's go this
Right.
way, because they're all different,
Yeah. And who do
exactly.
you yell at and who do you hug?
Exactly right. Exactly.
And that's the biggest thing. And that's the coaches have to be aware. And
Right.
that's all.
Exactly. Dom, this has been awesome. First of all, pleasure to
Thanks,
meet
man.
you. Nice to meet a like-minded
Yeah.
guy talking.
Oh, thanks.
This was
Same
fantastic.
here.
Yeah, and hopefully at some point we get to meet in person. And if it was the Dominican, that would be fantastic. But I don't want to
I
get too
love that.
excited. Yeah. This is great. So thank you so much.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna
Thanks for having me, Wayne.
you got it. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Game Plan Podcast. Hope you enjoyed today's episode with Dom Johnson, someone who I did not know before this podcast. And as you can see, we really connected, like-minded guys, age-wise, pitching, baseball backgrounds. Of course, was a better player and a better coach than me, but still, you could see we come from the same cloth, if you will. Again, thank you so much for listening. And as a reminder, please check out my Develop Elite Pitchability course. $99. If you are not blown away with it, I promise I will refund the cost of the course and you can keep it. That's as best as I could say how proud I am of this course and how impactful I really think it is. For more information on that, please visit go.collegebaseballadvisor.com/develop elite pitchability. And on that note, look forward to our next episode, which is with Jamie Pinzino, longtime successful college baseball coach, currently the pitching coach at East Tennessee State. And until then, we'll see you. Thanks and have a great day.